trying to get to 20,000 subs by the end of the season. I need you all to do me one simple favor. Send this show to everybody. Tell them to sub. When you're during the holiday season, just grab all your relatives' phones and hit subscribe. They don't know that they need this show yet. If they're an LSU fan, they're unfamiliar that they need to be a part of this show. Hit that subscribe button for them. Per Football Scoop, Joe Houston, the former senior special teams analyst, is set to be hired as the next special teams guy at LSU. Was at Alabama in 2019 and has had some stops along the SEC. Let's see what happens here. I know that people are a little gun-shy about Football Scoop during this whole Elijah Robinson situation. Are they legit? Yes, they've reported a lot of LSU stuff over the last couple of days. They were really big in the whole Blake Baker thing as well. Guys, coaching carousels are coaching carousels. One thing that you're told 1 minute is something that you're not being told the next. It is what it is. And you're going to have to give some people that are in the media some grace on this. Matt Zenitz reported some of the same stuff earlier this week, too, about Joe Houston becoming a special teams guy for Lane Kiffin. So you're starting to narrow down the staff. Here's what I'd say about Joe Houston if it is ultimately him. Don't know if it's final yet, but if it is ultimately him, that report is out there. Guys, Florida did a really good job this year at being at 50 yards plus and making critical field goals. I think Florida last year under Billy Napier from top to bottom was chaotic more than what was Joe Houston's fault. Guys, here's what I'm going to continue to tell you because this is going to continue to happen under Lane Kiffin. There are going to be coaches that get hired here, whether it be Joe Houston, whether it be Eric Wolford, regardless of who it is. Regardless of who it is, there are going to be Alabama Nick Saban connections. There are going to be Pete Carroll connections. Without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, there are going to be connections to former coaches and with Nick Saban's tie into it and with Pete Carroll's tie into it. Bottom line, personally where I struggle right now is I see the Eric Wolford stuff and people are like, oh, man, I don't know about that. Or Joe Houston. A lot of people have problems with that. I understand it. I have a hard time with Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban hiring some of the same coaches and them having success. When you are a part of something, I think of my really good friend who started his own business. He was a financial advisor. He went out on his own. He brought a lot of the team that he was with now was colleagues and guys that he worked with and trust with that he brought along with him. That happens in coaching all of the time. Now, Lane didn't have a lot of connections to Eric Wolford in reference to being on the staff, but Saban did, and Saban trusted him. Saban also trusted 2019 Joe Houston to be his guy with, by the way, the Alabama's all-time leading scorer at the time was when Joe Houston was involved in the special teams with their kicker and all the things like that. I'll bring this up and say this as a whole. If it is Joe Houston, look, man, special teams is not my forte in reference to what coaches are good, aren't good. I know that Florida, and just watching Florida this year, they had a really, really good punt unit. They went after some punts. They didn't block it, but you were not great on special teams this year at all either. You need a whole revamp on special teams. I thought it was a farce to let Damian Ramos continue to go out there and kick, even though he's broken records for you. I think Aaron Burrell was the better kicker. You just didn't – I don't know what you were doing. But you need a clean sweep of everything that was going on from special teams. Lane, ironically, has been really good there. They have been actually very good there. From a punt unit standpoint, from a field goal standpoint, I mean, guys, they've been very solid there. Now, they go for it a lot. I say we are going to start going for it a lot. And special teams is going to be a factor in critical moments, but we're going to go for it a lot on fourth down with Lane Kiffin. If Joe Houston ultimately is the guy, I don't mind it. Again, we're going to have to see and be proven wrong, or I'm going to have to be, quote-unquote, proven wrong on this. I have a hard time seeing a Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban hiring a guy and them not really respecting that person to be a part of their staff. So let's see if Joe Houston, as special teams coordinator and an analyst, is going to take part. The main thing when reference to staff that I wanted to get to tonight was a couple of things, because this is what's about to happen over the next couple of days. I told you on Tuesday that I think this Elijah Robinson thing behind closed doors, that there was going to be some finality that LSU and other teams are going to want to start getting. That is here. And I'm just going to prepare you that in the next, I'll say this, 48 business hours, that I expect for there to be an understanding of where and what Elijah Robinson's going to do. However, I think that, or no, not say think, I do believe that Lane Kiffin has a plan that if it's not him, and it's already being executed upon that plan. I think Randall Joyner, the current defensive line coach at Ole Miss, is interesting. I know that we talked about that, and I think that we need to continue to monitor that. Some of these positions that are not filled, meaning you don't have a current filling of, a current field position at running back. I know that Frank Wilson came out this week and said that him and Lane will talk at the end of the season. Okay, we'll see what happens there. And I know that there's a big media push here from the local media beat to keep Frank. We've gone through that. I'm not talking about that tonight, other than when we get to Kevin Smith, I might bring it up one more time. The finality of the E-Rob stuff is coming. I promise you it's coming. You've been here with us this entire search. And the things that we have come out here and said, whether it be as the process went on and why the show continued to build on us covering this, was because of, hey, we came out the night before, here it came. And this E-Rob thing in the next 48 business hours, because I don't know if people are going to report stuff on Saturday or not, I start expecting finality on what he wants to do. That is coming. I can't really get a better inside track on that one than I feel that we have. Decisions are being made, options are being weighted, and LSU wants an answer for what it's worth, and I think that they're going to get it soon. Whether it's announced soon or not, that's a whole different ordeal. But believe you me, LSU's not going to get caught off guard there. As we talked about yesterday, I do think Randall Joyner's going to be very interesting. But today I saw some stuff and because last night I was pretty out of it, had some family stuff going on. But this morning I started talking to some people and started seeing some of the stuff that was out there. And a lot of questions came up about Kevin Smith, the current running backs coach at Ole Miss, that he was on an MOU. What an MOU is a memorandum of understanding, signing the contract that you will be on next year's staff. A lot of media for Ole Miss got it wrong again, because they have been very bad at this, man. They've been very bad at this. I don't know how y'all following them like that, man. I'm just going to be real with you. But they missed yet again in reference to the term sheets of a memorandum of understanding. I read it. It seems like that was backdated for last year. I understand that there was also a leaked video, allegedly in a leaked video, of Lane Kiffin having a conversation about Kevin Smith and Keywan Lacey. All I will tell you is this. I have no idea if that's true or not. Guys, with AI, I start really not believing a lot of stuff that I see in here. But there's been a lot of questions that have been targeted towards me about, hey, man, well, if Kevin Smith's not coming, what does that mean about Frank? Well, guys, the memorandum of understanding really doesn't mean shit. And the reason that it doesn't is look what just happened with Charlie Weiss. Look what just happened. Ole Miss came back and countered anyway, even though an MOU was signed by Charlie Weiss to be LSU's offensive coordinator, which affirmatively today, that is over with and that is done. I just, again, truly believe in my heart of hearts that if Frank was going to be retained and that they did not want Kevin Smith, that this would be over. Guys, I'm not going to be the one, and I'm going to let this play out. But I know a lot of you have your own feelings either way. I've said this until I'm blue in the face, but it's by far the most asked question that I get on a daily basis. So I feel like I got to bring up the biggest question that we have on a daily basis. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that there's a lot of people that Frank has tried to utilize to be able to get his name and let there be a big media push to keep him on staff. That is happening. That is 1,000% happening, that things are being played out from our media corps, that people are trying to get a Frank Wilson push for him to stay. If you're on that boat, go right along with him. There are some people that are on the other side that don't want him to be retained. Some in our media corps have been vocal about that too. I can only tell you where I stand. I don't care. Meaning, I care about what is going to happen at LSU. Literally, my livelihood depends on it. But what I'm not going to do, and again, we'll continue to repeat this, as much as we have been asked, or I have been asked, what I am not going to do is second guess a head coach who over the last 6 years as a head coach in the SEC in total offense in the country is average of 5th. I'm just not going to do it. So quit asking. My best Nick Saban impression. If Lane Kiffin believes that he should retain Frank Wilson, he will. If he doesn't believe it, he won't. And you shouldn't freak out either way. You shouldn't. Do I think things happen behind the scenes that maybe that relationship got off to a rocky start? No one's going to admit it. No one will admit that. Okay? And that is okay. Not wanting to admit that is okay. But the bottom line is I think that we're all adults and understand how business is done. Wake up, Peter Pan. Because I think that Lane Kiffin wants his guy. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. You just signed the number one prospect out of New Orleans. You missed on the number one prospect in New Orleans for next year's class in 2027. You are about to miss the number one player overall with Elijah Haven. And I see this narrative being pushed that Frank Wilson built national title teams at LSU. No, he didn't. No, he did not. Quite honestly, I think that LSU needs a complete reset offensively. That is my opinion. If Frank is a part of that reset, that is okay with me. But you are going to have to be better on offense. Y'all want to push back on it. What is your argument about pushback? Well, Blake, what about the recruitment? You're the same people that is in there saying that this is all about money. It can't be both. Because money is money is money. And if you got money, well, money talks and bullshit walks. Relationships don't mean shit when money got flown out, and you saw it last week, not just at LSU. Money talks and bullshit walks. Always has had been that way, always will be that way. Because it seems to me that he wants it. So I understand that the MOU for Kevin Smith and circling back into that, because they're not confident that he is going to stay at Ole Miss. So it's coming out of Ole Miss, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, that Kevin Smith has not been extended as of right now. And I will tell you this, there's a lot of tension that's going on from what I'm hearing with Ole Miss and LSU's new staff. You know, this video got leaked of Lane Kiffin today that I really don't know if it's true or not. With AI, I have no clue. I have no clue. But the thing that is coming out of Ole Miss is that Kevin Smith, they're not assured that he is going to be retained. I feel like if Lane wants him and they can get off on the right foot, that there's a strong possibility that he will be your next running backs coach. But the MOU meant nothing, just like it meant nothing for Charlie Weiss Jr. So you're wrapping down and wrapping in and finalizing everything that is going on here. with your staff. Let's see if Joe Houston gets hired as an analyst for special teams. Because quite honestly, you need a defensive line coach. You're going to start getting some finalized answers, I would assume, soon, at least for one of them. And I don't know if Lane's not going to bring 2 other staff members with him. I don't know that to be the case. It feels that way to me. Again, I have no idea what he's going to do. We may see in 16 days what happens there. But 16 days is a long time. In 16 days, you'll be playing in a bowl game, and you'll start getting finality about what the future of LSU is. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I still think that this Kevin Smith thing is in play at the highest order until it's over. And I do think that they're battling for him, and then they'll make an adjustment. But that is where you sit. As well as defensive line, look, this thing with Lane on these last 2 positions, for what it's worth, has been somewhat quiet on their end. Like, what do I mean by that? It appears to me that there's only 3 people that really know of the true direction. Glasscock, your GM, Lane Kiffin, and Verge Osbury. Those are the ones leading the ship here. And if Lane wants to replace everybody on offense, I've been told that Verge has given the green light. Do whatever you need to do, because we were not good at offense at all. The MOU meant nothing for Kevin Smith. So, guys, I don't know why Ole Miss people are continuously saying, oh, Charlie Weiss Jr., he's coming back to Ole Miss. Kevin Smith coming back to Ole Miss. It's not finalized yet. An MOU for last year is an MOU for last year. Has nothing to do with what is going to happen in the 2026 season. Some people, I guess, cannot read. But it's literally right there in the term sheet. I do think that conversations are being still had with Randall Joyner and with Kevin Smith. So we'll see. In reference to the staff, listen, I do think that there's going to be some staff holdover here. I don't know how Lane is going to deal with all of that, but I still think some off-field personnel staff guys are going to be retained. I do think that if some of these guys were not going to be retained, you would already be making hires for their positions. So I don't know if you're going to be set there from off-field perspective. What I do think that Lane has got to do is you have a lot of really good talent on the off-field personnel staff that was not utilized effectively enough. You have Saban's director of recruiting in Sam Petito. You have Sherman Wilson, who helped mold that 2022 team when you actually gave him a chance offensively, and the old offensive staff didn't, they just wanted to do their own thing. But Jaden Daniels calling him out in the Heisman Trophy ceremony. I still think J.R. Belton is retained. And so I think that you would have been bringing other guys in to replace that if you were going to move on. I don't know how that's all going to shake out. But your staff is starting to finalize here. And I do think that they're keeping a lot of things really tight-knit and close to the vest moving forward. In reference to the video, this is what I also saw on social media. Ole Miss fans calling for Lane to be hit with tampering. Okay, well, if you hit LSU with tampering, if you try to hit LSU with tampering, which is, you brought the whole staff back. You brought LSU's entire offensive staff back. What did you think was going to happen here? But this is a very unique situation that's going on. So if you want to hit LSU with tampering, I see the media calling for it. I see the fans calling for it at Ole Miss. Here's what I tell you. If you do it, then we're going to pull your whole offensive staff, and you got 2 playoff games that you potentially got to play, and you're going to get your teeth kicked in. You're going to get your teeth kicked in. So you want to make a fake AI-generated video? By all means, go ahead and do it. But those players offensively didn't come to Ole Miss because they like the Grove. They didn't come to Ole Miss because they like your historic history. Your history sucks. Your history stinks. No one gives a Rudy poo about your history. They went there offensively because of Charlie Weiss and Lane Kiffin. Reality is a hard pill to swallow. I think that this thing from staff is not over with Ole Miss, and I sure as hell don't think that this is even remotely getting started when it comes to players. So when that portal opens on the 2nd of January, well, you know, it's funny. Somebody brought this up to me today who's in coaching and said, you know, when BK went to LSU, no player followed him. None. Other than Logan Diggs, who's from Louisiana. But it took a year. I'm not 1,000% sure. I'm not 1,000% sure that that's going to happen here. I do think that there's going to be some guys that transfer because high school recruits already decommitted and came to LSU. If that video is legit, though, hypothetically speaking, I got to be real with you. I want Kwan Lacey. I think that the thing for me, and I've talked about this a couple of times, the thing for me that I want LSU to get back to, the one thing that LSU has been lacking over the last 4 years is a certain level of physicality on both lines of scrimmage. Blake Baker and staff got that back this year. You are a very physical unit defensively. You did a lot of really good things in the interior and at edge. You are a very physical unit on the defensive side of things. What LSU has been lacking for really 4 years, I thought 2022 you were the most physical under Brian Kelly, was that certain tenacity that you got to bring back. Guys, look at all of the teams that are in the playoffs right now, Ole Miss included. What do all of them have in common? Guys, they run the football at a high clip. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. The number one thing that you got to do to have consistency and be a playoff team, more than being dynamic through the air, more than being dynamic and stopping the pass, more than all of the glitz and glamour, the number one thing that you have to do to make a playoff is stop the run effectively enough and to be able to run the football. If Kevin Smith does come for LSU as running backs coach, if it's Frank Wilson that gets retained, none of that matters. The number one thing and the thing that I've been most excited about is Lane Kiffin bringing a certain form of physicality up front along your offensive line that he has brought everywhere he's been, whether it's being a coordinator at Bama, whether it's being at Ole Miss, regardless of where it's been. The biggest lie has always been that Lane Kiffin is a pass-happy coordinator. No, he's not. Everything that they do is set up through the run. They have led the SEC the last 6 years in rushing. You don't do that if you don't have a certain level of physicality along your offensive line. And by the way, he did it with athletes. He did it with players. He did it with an offensive line that did not have the talent that LSU has technically and literally produced along their offensive line. Meaning, Will Campbell was the number one offensive lineman that was drafted. Emory Jones in the third round, 4 offensive linemen drafted. You got to mold and build that offensive line in that running game because, guys, until you find it, until you find a consistent running game, you will consistently sit outside the playoffs. And I think that more than ever, from a coaching side of things, you know, before NIL, everybody tried to be more innovative of how to do things and where the sport was going. And then the sport blew up with NIL and the portal and TV revenue money and all of that stuff. What do all of the teams in the playoff, Power 4 opponents or Power 4 teams, what do they all have in common that you're going to see in the Final Four? Like I look at Oregon, I look at Indiana, I look at Texas Tech, I look at Texas A&M. I look at Georgia. I look at Miami. What do they all have in common? And the two teams that we think that probably can't win it from the P4 are the two teams that cannot run the football. It is always going to be the same thing. So if Kejuan Lacey hits that portal, if Kevin Smith wants to be your next running backs coach, based off of what we just saw from Ole Miss, a running back that had 1,300 yards and 20 touchdowns, no one better say a word. Guys, Kejuan Lacey had more yards and more touchdowns than your three-headed monster backfield. You got to change a lot along your offensive line. So again, the argument that I'm making about this MOU or what LSU is going to do, Lane Kiffin, what have we learned in the last 9 days, 10 days? What have we learned? What we've learned is from his offensive staff, he wants guys that have been around him and know what to do. That is the bottom line. Who's an offensive staff member that's been hired that hasn't been with Lane yet? Charlie Weiss Jr., by the way, was with Lane Kiffin as a GA on Alabama's staff, while Lane Kiffin was the offensive coordinator. Joe Cox has been with him a long time. The thing that excites me the most, though, is that I think that Lane Kiffin brings back a level of physicality, and I am just not going to tell the man who literally went out in the portal and got a running back that got cut to being what he is right now, to tell him that he can't do it. And their level of physicality, they need to bring it here.